had sex for, I don't know, 10 hours here, invited people, orgies, super kinky things. I blindfold you, and here then we invite strangers, and you gangbangs. Like it was a lot.
And I just turned around towards this group of people and I punched someone very hard in the face, like
Oof.
with double step. It was like 2 meters from here. I stepped, turned, boom, and hooked him. And I think I broke something because I punched him very hard, like a punching bag.
I don't care
Med-
about the definition of addiction. I am not.
medically,
They can
medically.
define me as bisexual. They can define me as
Yeah.
queer. What if I say I'm none of that? This is my choice. so,
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
so for me, the
Absolutely.
definition can go to hell. Who wrote the definition? A guy. Who am I? A guy. I rewrite the definition. I'm not an addict. Bye.
Drugs was an extension of it, in my opinion. It allowed me to dissociate from the situation and feeling a little bit better in also social interactions. Like, what's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of the Triple M podcast, the Mindful Man movement. Today is going to be an interesting one. On YouTube, these arguments always get a lot of clicks, which is
Drugs.
yes. So both me and Marco, we have our history with drug use, and we want to navigate, a bit of crazy stories and why do we think we got into it and what got us to move away from it as well. And how are you, Marco? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great today. I have to say, I'm really feeling very good. Yesterday I had a lot of fun. I went on the racetrack after last year, and it was a great experience. And yeah, I'm really feeling good. And I'm very happy to record this episode because it's the third time we recorded. We had technical issues 2 times, but like the triple M movement, the triple episode, all the good things are three. The triad of podcast.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's also show a completely different approach to things. Let's say I would say that usually I would be kind of more impulsive, rushing things, but this time I'm allowing for making things perfect. Instead of just posting something that was low quality, we waited, we did it again, and then now we're doing it again.
Yeah.
But it's good because we went through a learning process as well. We understood a little bit better what works and what didn't work in the previous attempts. And I actually have a few things that I do want to add to this episode to make it even better.
Same.
So if you guys like me and Marco talking about things, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment. So where do we start?
Poof.
Where did it start, Marco, for you? Where do you think your first contact with drug happened?
So, as I already said 2 times in the episodes before, and I would say it again, the very first contact was with my grandfather, my parents giving me some alcohol during nice dinners, Easter, Christmas, like this during festivities. The kids, I was a kid, were asking, "Can I also have some wine? Can I also have some beer?" And then they were saying, okay, but just a little bit, because we were very insisting. And then they gave us some little wine in the water. So that was the very first contact I had with drugs. It was alcohol as a kid, I would say. This was a bit innocent, but indeed, my grandfather, my mother, they were giving us drugs for fun when we were kids, and we thought, oh, we are adults, we are big now because we are 7, 8, 9, 10, we can drink, and that was the very first touch, I would say. What about you?
Yeah, the same. The same. I don't remember how old I was, but yeah, in Italy we have this thing that we allow kids. I don't know if it's happening now again, still, but you know, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I'm older than I think. 20 years ago, for sure. For sure, it was happening. Like it's normal to have wine, especially in south of Italy, to have wine for lunch and dinner. And when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, take a sip. So it was definitely happening. Let us know if in your country it's also something that happens in the comments. And now I've learned that this is something very bad. Like I've read about addiction from psychiatrists, and they share the story of addicts, and often addiction comes from very early contact with drugs, whether it's dysfunctional families or, you know, in rough cases, heroin addicts being pregnant, and so the fetus, the baby in the belly, is already using heroin, and it already develops addiction. So I think it's very bad to even give a drop of alcohol to kids. Obviously, I don't think for everyone is going to turn into addictive behavior, but avoid that. And so yeah, it was the same for me, and how it developed over time for you.
Well, of course, as a kid, I didn't think about these kind of things that could have developed into anything else. But what's a matter of fact is that I started drinking very early, like around 12, 13, at that age when I came into puberty, because I went into puberty quite early. I think around 12 I was uh, into puberty, and we were doing parties with friends, and we were buying this melon. The last time I said peach, but actually it was melon infused Keglevich vodka. We were getting drunk in during school trips, and I also had a friend that I will tell more about later, but his name is Felix, and he was very wild, and he joined our class a bit later, but he brought the excessive behavior into our class. I was amazed by that, and with him we started drinking at a very early age, and I also started smoking weed very early with him. I think I was around 13 when I had my first water bottle pipe. He built basically a water bong, and this is how I had my first illegal contact with drugs at the age of 13 in Felix's place back at the time.
So why do you think you were drugged into using? I mean, I think, I don't know. I think it's not that difficult when you are at that age to be influenced into using drugs. Like for me, for example, it happened around the same age. Like when I was like 13 and 14, like the use of alcohol kind of started to escalate with family, especially when I was not with my mom, when I was with my uncle and my aunt, you know, because as for my mom, she was always kind of very, very strict, especially also my grandma. My grandma, drugs dead. Use drugs, you die. You know, that was the message from my grandma. But when I was with my uncle and aunt in summer holidays, this is when I started to drink more, especially at the table, and they were surprised. You know, they were already having these thought. I was like, what are you doing, Stefano? Like, why you keep filling up the glass with beer? And yeah, me too. Keglevich was a thing for us as well. It did not taste good though. Like I don't. It it was not a good flavored vodka. Like all the flavor kind of tasted the same, and then there was the mint flavor that was kind of disgusting. But you know, like it was kind of a trend to drink Keglevich. But what I was asking is like for me, like the reason why now as an adult looking back, I know that getting into drugs was coming from the fact that as a kid I was feeling alone. You know, like there was my parents split up when I was 6. My mom was going through her mental struggle. My father was not present, neither before that and after. He was never been a good parent, and so he was emotionally detached from me. And then my mother, when they split up, had to figure out life now and take care of her children, of her child, and she was not at home often. And this is when I started to kind of dissociate. And I think and I developed ADHD that way. We talked about it with my therapist. And so for me, and then at school I had bullying, and then we moved a lot, we changed a lot of cities. So for me it was always about re-entering a new group of people and group of friends. And I was always kind of quiet and definitely not the cool kid. And so I was most of the time picked up on, right? So it started when I was a kid with bullying, then it slowed down, but it was difficult for me to feel kind of fully accepted and fully part of the group of people I was in. And so alcohol was kind of, and drugs was an extension of it, in my opinion. It allowed me to dissociate from the situation and feeling a little bit better in also social interactions, I guess, and overcome social anxiety, I think, or this feeling of loneliness, perhaps. Yeah. So I think this is what dragged me to really feeling good in using drug and escaping reality. And I'm asking because I'm asking you, what do you think it was for you? Because I know that even though, like, as a kid, it's very easy to be surrounded by this situation and being dragged to using because you want to be cool. I also know many other friends that naturally moved away from it. They were not attracted to it.
I think in my case, indeed, it was curiosity. I'm a very curious person, and I'm also, how can I say, very little fearless. I'm a bit reckless. So whenever there is an occasion in which, if it's still in the frame, if I see that the person is giving me kind of okay, well, if he is doing it and he's cool, he was a good skateboarder. I mean, by the way, this person died before he turned 18 of an overdose. This was a very, very excessive person that traveled over the world, son of diplomats. But I will go into that later. Anyway, he was the coolest kid. He was clearly not too well. That's also why he passed away so early. But I was attracted by this, I don't know, by these very strong characters, this very rebellious. He was, like showing the finger to the teachers. He was, I don't know, bringing explosive fireworks in the school, and we got problems because of that. He was stealing scooters, and we were driving without the helmet. We were doing graffitis and hip hop. For me, the rap scene was really something very attractive for me, and still is. I did write rap songs until now. Now I developed my music style a bit, but He brought, like Wu-Tang Clan and German rappers, and I knew Italian rappers. Like I went into this hip hop thing. I like the style of baggy pants and hoodies and the cappies backwards. It's still a bit part of my style now. It developed a bit, but I was digging his style a lot, and everyone was obsessed with him because we didn't have style until then. When we were 12 and he arrived, he was 13 and a half. He was already a teenager while we were still kids. We were still dressed as our parents were dressing us, and he was dressing the way he wanted. He had a skateboard, and so he was by far the coolest guy ever. And he was also looking like DiCaprio, like blonde, blue eyes, like beautiful and cool and built strong. So anyway, I had a crush on him a bit. I realized after it was the first person I had a little crush, the first man, because I was super straight. I only had girlfriends, but with Felix I had a little crush. He was really, 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 really a hot guy and crazy. Like a Kurt Cobain style, the character. Anyway, and I was curious. I had a lot of free time. I had no control from my parents because my parents split when I was 3. My mother was extremely loose in our education, basically absent. She was doing her thing. Kids, if you sleep outside, just send me a message. Mama, I sleep outside. We don't have to say with who, what we are doing. Like I could have been smoking crack at 13. If I say mom, I'm out, it's okay. That's also why my brother could get into very hard drugs very early, and my mother never noticed. My brother, by the way, rest in peace as well. He died as well of drug overdose. So yeah, I had very extreme people around me, especially Felix, and of course my brother also became very extreme. And I was attracted by extreme. I like extremes. But I don't go as far. Like I like to see where the limit is, and also where it's over the limit, and I like to play a bit in the on the edge. Like on the racetrack. You cannot go too fast, otherwise you miss the turn and end in the fields. But also you want to go as fast as possible, because if you go slower, you want to go a bit faster. So finding this spot where you're not drifting away and dying of overdose, but also not wasting your life without having fun experiences and exciting moments. This is maybe where my character is a bit. I like to find the line and play a bit around that. So maybe this could explain why I was so drawn by his excessive behavior and why I also choose to do drugs.
No, I love that. It makes sense. It makes sense. I think we're kind of on the opposite spectrum there, because I was not attracted to this kind of lifestyle because I did the same thing. I did vandalism, and I was a rebel sometime in class, and we were stealing, but it never felt like part of me. I did it because I wanted to feel accepted somehow. I wanted to do some friends, and actually this specific person was the only one that that behaved like a real friend. Like we were kind of always together. And maybe it actually behaved like that just because he saw that I was easily being dragged towards what he wanted to do, because this was the only person really that I managed to do this connection to, and we ended up, and he was a vandal, he was a kleptomaniac, he wanted to steal from a commercial center. I was like, yeah, we're going to enter from the highways, and
Wow.
then we steal a car. Like, what the fuck is going on?
I like him. I was a bit like that. I also had these big plans. I also wanted to steal a bank, so to rob a bank.
And
Stefano, can you put your volume a bit higher? I hear you slightly quiet. Is
I
it
cannot. I cannot do it.
It's a
actually.
max, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then it's
I can put the mic closer though.
maybe yes. I
I
think that's
can
gonna
do.
be even better. Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank
And
you.
but yeah, this is what I was doing, and in this period, what I was doing, he was also selling hashish, so we and weed. So from like 13 to kind of 16 years old, we were often at home because I think was also the behavior of my mom was a little bit like the opposite. She was overprotective, like she always did. However, because she was alone and she had to work as a nurse, I had this double life, let's say, in which I would hide the things from my mom, and then when she wasn't at home, then I could basically do whatever I wanted, and so I often invited my friends at home, and we would smoke. Like we like to do like very big joints that like lasted 1 hour, like literally like cigars, and we would get very high, and it was fun. There was a lot of laugh. Those moments were definitely fun, but I don't know you, but for me, weed, okay, it was fun in this moment. I could really disconnect and just laugh, but it would work only with the friends that I really had close to.
Yeah.
And it was very enjoyable in the beginning when I was a kid, like until 16 years old, because once I started to like wanted to socialize more, flirted with girls more, it became a drug that actually shut me down and did not allow me to do that. So I stopped liking it, and I started to actually feel anxious from smoking because I would enter in a loop of thoughts. I was like, why did I smoke all the time, and I couldn't speak properly. So, and from like 16, it was more about alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, similar for me. I mean, I have to say I had a huge amount of fun with friends. We were having these evenings in which we were smoking also huge joints. We were very creative, sometimes putting 2 filters, sometimes 3 filters, sometimes smoking
Yeah.
huge bongs with eyes, without eyes. We were getting
I mean,
wasted.
the one thing I never really liked bong because like I had it few times. I had it only a few times. The first time I had it, I like dropped on the floor. I had like a super strong hit in my brain, and I almost passed out for like
Yeah, yeah.
a millisecond. But what I did like was it's called the chillum. Do you know the
Ah,
chillum?
yeah.
So chillum is like it's made of wood or it's made of
Yeah,
chalk.
like
How do you
porcelain, no? It's like made of,
porcelain? Yeah,
yeah, it's
and
like
it was like very very big. It doesn't really have a filter, and you put it in the end, and yeah, that was more enjoyable for me to smoke.
yeah, that's a more slow burner like pipe.
Yeah,
In our surrounding, it was the thing that the communist people were smoking. Like the chillum was a bit like this, and we were smoking joints mainly. But when we were doing parties towards the end, we said, okay, you know what? Let's take the bong out, and then we really like smoked and let's go. And then also we like smoked and then poof, fell on the bed, and some people kind of passed out. If there was alcohol involved in the mix, very often someone was then puking, falling. I was living on a flat with 2 floors, and and basically the bathroom on the top floor was connected to the room of my sister, so we didn't have access if she was there. So if we wanted to use the bathroom or the kitchen, we had to go downstairs, and the stairs were very steep wood stairs, very weird. Every step was different. It's a very old apartment in Trastevere, in the center of Rome, and so my mother, the architect, she designed these stairs, but they were very particular, and where people were very high, and also there was a point in which you had to duck because the roof wooden carriers. In the first step, you had to duck. It was very narrow before you start going down. And so often when we were super high, there was very often someone that either was falling down or dropping something when coming up with a bowl of cereals, and then I don't know. Then it was always something with the stairs, and we were always amused by that. It was really funny. So, but as for you, I had a lot of fun. Very young, from 13 to 17, where I was smoking regularly. From 18, 19, it started to become less. Also had then a girlfriend. I already had a girlfriend before, but then I don't know. It started to become, like I was finishing the school, and as for you, I was feeling also not so well when I was smoking. Things were starting to become a bit weird. It was not this super relaxed, fun, no thoughts. When like when I was in middle school, I really had no worries. School was going okay. I was not at risk to repeating the class. I was not the best, but for the amount of effort I was putting, I had decent grades. My parents were okay with that, and so like I had good food at home, a very big house. Back then I didn't think about the absence of my parents of something bad. I was actually super happy to not have them around. I was having the time of my life. Then afterwards I thought maybe having had a bit more guidance, a bit more presence could have been a plus. But back then as a teenager, having complete freedom and doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, I thought I could have not had better parents back
But
then.
was that freedom coming from them ignoring, or do you think they were more like just not understanding what was going on?
So my father was not present because he divorced from my mother. They split when I was 3. So I was seeing him every second weekend, and at lunch once a week on Wednesday. So I was seeing him at lunch one time, and the day before I was not maybe getting super high, so he could not notice. And on the weekend, every second weekend, I was also, like I was not. You could not tell that I was doing, like I was smoking weed with friends, laughing. I was fine. I was doing sport. But so he had no idea. Basically, he didn't know what I was doing in my life. We were strangers, basically. And he was also not very interested. I have the feeling, like he never like asked me really, or when we were not in touch he was calling me. He was doing his thing. He was very distant. I think he didn't care so much. And my mother, I think she was caring, but also she wanted to be the opposite of her mother, which was very controlling to her, always checking, very anxious, waiting for her at the window, when is my daughter coming. And so she was like very the opposite. She swinged from one side of the pendulum to the other and said, you know what, my kids, I will give them total freedom. And with me it was kind of okay because I was kind of a responsible person, not really, but also not completely crazy. And so she just trusted me completely. My sister was anyway not into anything fun, I would say. Sorry, sister, but she was more, like doing cakes, being on the phone with the friends, studying, drying flowers. Amazing. But she had this Rapunzel life in her room, where she was very much, but not really partying, not drinking, not smoking. That's not her. And yeah. So, and my mother, I don't know, she was doing her things. She was working, she was painting during the day. She was very into that. She was playing the piano. So she had really much her bubble, and when she was not working, she was going out with friends, or she was inviting friends for dinner. So we didn't really have a day-to-day life together. She was sometimes bringing us in the morning to school. That's it. That was the time I was seeing my mother. In the morning with her coffee, running around. Where are the keys of the car? Oh fuck, we are late. Oh fuck, I didn't put the fuel in the car. We were always arriving late. She I think she has ADHD as well, probably way more than me. She never know where she put the keys of the car. Probably she's looking even now. And it was always a mess. She was a mess. She was like she was the kid more than the kids. Like we were always like looking at each other.
Typical artist, right? Kind of.
Typical artist, yes. Like if you can say, yeah, typical artist.
Yeah.
And she was loving, she was sweet, she had so many words of affirmation. Especially, she was very much in love with me. even more than she was in love with my sister and my brother, which is not good because she was showing this kind of more and more that she had a favorite, and that was me, and that was very hard on my younger brother and also on my sister. I think she was never really saying it, but I was the one that also was helping her more, was spending more time with her. I was also the one that was sweeter, kinder. I was a very good kid. And then as a teenager, I was super independent. I was like, Mom, I started traveling at 12, 13 with my friends. We were flying to Greece. We were taking planes. I was going to Berlin with 14 with my friends. I was, like,
Your
okay, I will do
friends,
this.
but is that legal? You need to have the...
No, no,
No?
no.
And
I
where did
mean,
you guys live? Like
I mean, my friend. I had friends in Berlin that had their
family,
parents here, so
parents, okay.
they had half of the parent parts in Germany because I went to the German school. So Luca, my friend, his father was living in Berlin, the mother in Rome, and so we were in his apartment here.
But yeah,
Like,
anyway, I said some bullshit there. I'm not sure if it's illegal. I was traveling to go see, I was flying to go see my dad, but I don't remember if you like they need to make sure that then like you get in touch with someone who is an adult when you arrive at the airport. I don't
I
remember.
don't know. I mean, with 15, 16, I remember for sure we were going to
16 you
Greece.
can. I think you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also before, maybe it was also other times because you have to think that I am almost 38. And when I was 14, we are talking about 20, 24 years ago.
Yeah. I am 10 or 8 years
Yeah.
younger.
So it was around the years 2000s. I don't know, but
Okay.
maybe now they would make sure. Back then, they couldn't care less.
Absolutely. Well, exciting teenage life.
Yeah.
On my side, like as I said, my mom was not aware, but also my mom did never really drink and partied. And to this day, even though the boyfriend like drinks at the table, she often just wants water, and. On my side, I would say that the feeling both from my mom, that from my dad, was there was this strict line in which I couldn't do these things, even though I was doing them as well. And I would like to tell a story that is, well, it's not necessarily related to getting fucked, even though like there was nicotine addiction involved because we went to this protest, right? We love to protest because when there was a protest in the city, you could not actually go to school. You could officially justify yourself because there is a protest, and you went to this protest.
So
And
this is where it
now,
all started, your activism, eh? Because you saw the advantage of. I'm
bro,
kidding.
in this protest specifically, I was going there because we want to fight.
Ah,
We
okay.
wanted to fight with someone. It was about being
Even worse. Okay.
it was bad. That was vandalism, and even that behavior did not match my vibe, to be honest. Because then we did fight. We did had a fight. Someone slapped my friend in the back a couple of times, and so this group of people, because there was a lot of people who went there just to fight and be messy and be a vandal and break things, and so it was not difficult to find beef. Beef. It's not vegan. It was not difficult to find tofu, and a fight while you were there, and so someone slapped my friend, and but I was not present. I was not present because there was then the other guy that is kind of slapped me then a couple of times, and I didn't react. I was just dissociating. That was not me.
Yeah.
I don't know how can I explain that. I was just going with the flow, let's say, but it was not me. I did not reflect myself in that behavior, even though it was me. But anyway, what happened is that as we went to the protest, we put together the only 15 euros or 10 euros that we had to buy cigarettes. And then my kleptomaniac friend wanted to steal something, so we went into Mondadori in Milan. So Mondadori in Milan, of course, is full of cameras,
The big
so
CD and bookshop, Mondadori. For those who don't know
yeah,
Italy, it's like I don't know, a big record and music and bookstore.
yeah, and so famous one, So obviously it's going to be full of security and CCTV, and then there is this 16 years old kids that go in looking a little bit, like how do you say delinquente in English?
Let's say suspect, but I think
Exactly.
criminal.
Definitely looking like some suspects, and so I was just watching, making sure that like the the area was safe so you could steal. Obviously, it was not safe. They had eyes on us, and as soon as we worked out the place, the alarm went off, and they actually did it manually because it took only the CD out of the package, so it was impossible that the alarm was on the CD. And well, long story short, we went to the police station, and my father came pick me up, and he was like, "You are a shit son." And then my mom kicked me out from the house and sent me to my dad, and she regretted it after very little time that she sent me to my dad. But here, the moral of the story from this short story that I just said is that I really think that parents need to ask more why and how do you feel, because it didn't help me. It didn't help me. If it made me feel just more dissociated from my parents, and made me feel more like I couldn't open up to them, and we were living these two lives that that's completely different, and I cannot share it with them. And this feeling is still with me today. Even though I would like to be more open to my mom about my experience with drugs and my drug use, but I feel like I just cannot do it. I just cannot do it. But I think it would have been very helpful to have someone that listens to you. And I don't know, it's difficult, it's because you need to be a therapist these are kind of therapist skills to go deep in why you're having this behavior that is harmful to you. But yeah, if some parent is listening to this, don't be so strict. Try to understand and ask questions.
100%. But
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be a psychologist or a therapist to have a good connection with your son or daughter. I think the problem is before, like we developed this coping mechanism because already before the parenting was not, I would say, good.
Yeah.
That's why the distance was created, and then of course a parent that already created a distance is not capable of asking the right questions, otherwise this parent would have not created this big distance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the parent that already creates a good bond with the kid is because the parent is asking the kid the right questions, and is asking the right questions because it's connected already. Like parents in the end are grown-up kids. So if they had a good example of parenting themselves, and for example my parents that also fucked up on many ways, I know that this is coming from their parents mainly. There is this thing called intergenerational trauma. I also wrote a song about that. If you want to hear it, go. It's called Papa, where I talk about my father, that basically he didn't even know that he was always hurting and making me feel or trying to making me feel less valuable than himself. And this was coming because his father, and I know that because I heard stories from cousins, uncles, was always so hard on him and also violent and always making him feel like nothing. And this hurt him deeply. And since my grandfather died early, I think they never solved that. And these very hard insecurities, feelings, he cannot do otherwise than he's hurt, and he's still hurting because of that. And are you checking if the birds? Or
I heard voices, you know.
ah, okay, okay. And so what I want to say is that I would say the following: if you're not ready to listen to your kids, don't have kids. If you
Yeah,
don't know how to deal
yeah,
with others, deal with yourself first.
yeah. I think that's such a good point. Even though it's not necessarily super related, but I want to say that so many people see kids as some kind of way of achieving something in life,
Yeah,
and like I don't know, you find a job, you find a girlfriend, then you get married, then you get kids,
yeah,
but most of the times even these people like regret it, like they understand after that is not something for them, so dissociate from this story that you've been taught. Okay, if you want to be a parent, I mean, if you feel like that's what you really want, yes, but don't see it like an achievement because it's not something that you go and buy at the supermarket. Then you need to be pregnant, then you need to be a parent, a real one, not someone that regretted being a parent and see being a parent as this like extra hard things, because then you create trauma because you're not present, and then problems for the kid.
100%.
Let's talk about harder drugs. I want to know about the
Let's
harder
go to
drugs.
the real deal.
Yeah, so when did you try first, like I don't know, ecstasy, coke, MDMA? What was your first drug?
I will say the first really little things like on New Year's Eve. It happened when I was, I don't know, 17, 18,
Also,
19.
I want another question that, and then you can just relate the whole
Yeah.
story. When you didn't use drugs, yeah, like hard drugs, when you were drinking, you were smoking, what was your I thinking towards like drugs like cocaine and ketamine? Was it something that you thought, yeah, I'm going to try it, or something that was like, no, I would never try it?
So let's say that even when I was drinking when I was 12 and someone passed me a joint, back then I was no, I don't do this. I know my limits. I will have a beer, I will have a tequila shot, but I'm not into that.
12 years
So
old.
this is how I was, and of course cocaine. I didn't know even about keta, MDMA when I was a kid. I thought, okay, this stuff is really for the real junkies, But even joints when I was a kid was bad. Then I did it because, of course, I met Felix and everything changed. But but when I was smoking weed, yeah, MDMA, I was like, okay, some cool people in the friend group of friends that doing MDMA. And you know what? I will have a little sip, and I was like, okay, let's see. I didn't feel much because it was a little sip of a bottle of MDMA, so it was like a micro dose. So I didn't do that stuff. I was really not interested. In general, I would say I have quite a relaxed relationship with drugs and also alcohol. I was always doing it with friends to party, but not to dissociate. It was more like, okay, to celebrate. With Felix, it was a bit crazy because he was always pushing the extreme, so I always ended up puking. But after Felix left, when I was 15, 16, he went back to Guatemala, and then 2 years later, I got the info that he passed away. But anyway, with these other friends that were a bit more chill that I had, we were kind of always having fun, mostly. Sometimes I was going a bit too much in drinking when there was open bar at New Year's Eve, and then ended up puking in the tube. But mainly it was a lot of YOLO funny moments. But the hard drugs came in when I was around 23. I started my real estate job here in Berlin. I was super elegant, but a friend of mine, Pietro, came to visit, And Pietro is really, really, how can I say? He's a connoisseur. He really is a nerd in many things. He's also a super chef in star restaurants. And he said, let's go to Berghain and let's have this experience. And we got in at the age of 23. It was not so easy for me to get in because I was looking completely different. I had no tattoos. I wasn't cool. I was just like some black jeans and a black t-shirt, and we could get in. And we took. He gave me like these crystals of MDMA in the right dosage, and it was great. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I felt so connected with everyone. The music was great. I was dancing.
Yeah.
I was feeling amazing.
Now the first high from MDMA is just amazing. You don't get that again ever.
No, you don't. It was really something. Wow, mind blowing. And yeah, that was the first time. And for a while, I kept doing it very rarely because I had this super corporate job from my 23 until my 30. For 6.5 years, I was the serious businessman. I was uh, in a suit, in a Rolex, doing big deals, millions of transactions, and making also not millions of transactions for me, but I was moving, buying, selling big portfolios together with a team. But I was involved in a very high-end, I would say, real estate investment office at a very good position. And so I was maybe once a year doing a party, and I was not drinking from 23 to 30. I was as good as sober. Sometimes a little glass of super nice whiskey. I had a bar here in my home back then. Like I was very like behaving like a adult New York lawyer. Like I had like whiskeys for 100 euros bottles. And every now and then watching something in TV, a movie. I was having a little sip of my rums or my whiskeys, but that's it. So in that period, not a lot happened. Now, right at you, and then I will go to the crazy part.
I think that's the big difference, and I think it makes a difference when it comes to actually develop addictive behavior, addictive personality, and addictive habits. The fact that you have this period of your life in which you were away from drugs for the most part, because actually until 23 or even 25 for men, I think, we're still developing our brain, right? And so, and this is also why like people that are born into addiction tend to be addicted when they are grown up, because the more you are behaving in a certain way when you're a kid, the more you're likely to have those brain pathway developed as you get older. And for me, what happened is that it was a continuous and connected run from when I started at 14, and then and first of all, throughout this period, I always had the feeling and desire of actually trying different drugs. Even when my mom asked me, I was already smoking joints, but when my mom would talk about like joints, I was like, yeah, I would try it, And I don't know if I ever said it, that I would have tried harder drugs to her, even when I didn't try them yet. But I'm sure in my brain, I had it kind of clear that I wanted to try harder drugs, even though I didn't try them until I think 2020. I think I was 20 years old, and I was just moved to Edinburgh, and I was starting my my life as a bartender and my life traveling the world, let's say. And I was living in a hostel. I was living in a hostel with in this hostel there was this Glasgow guy, crazy, proper junkie at this point, I think, 40 years old, living in a hostel. He was working. Yeah, I think actually, I'm not sure if he had a job. But anyway, the guy sometime during the evening he would get crazy. You would hear him scream, and because probably he was high and getting out of his head.
Wow.
But anyway, I bought ecstasy from him, and we did it together with my girlfriend at the time. She was also like a very traumatized kid. She got sexual abuse from her family. So crazy met, and we did ecstasy, and it was so good. Again, like the experience, like wow. Because again, I then realized over time, but I developed this feeling of anxiety, social anxiety, insecurity, and I noticed that I was never relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not. I still feel like that most of the time, but now I'm aware. And so what ecstasy did was shutting everything off. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, I feel good. I don't feel anxious. I feel happy. I don't care about how these interactions with other people are going. I feel like boundaries are off. I never felt like that. And so it was a very, very happy moment. And then we got mad. We went mad in the bedroom too. Like sex was amazing. The feeling, the sensation was much more intense. I lasted more as well, so I was like experimenting even more. I think I remember I don't know how much in details should we go, but yeah, it was
great.
it was a great.
Yes, it was great.
It was very great sex
and drugs.
And after that, because I was feeling that good, I decided to buy 10 pills. 10 pills. I wanted to sell some, and so I had them to use it myself. But I started to do them every day. But a few days after, I realized that the experience was far away from the first feeling. Tolerance was building up pretty quickly, and the effect was actually translating into just a feeling, sometimes just feeling a little tired actually.
Yeah.
And so I stopped. I stopped doing it every day, but I started to get into techno parties more. Which, by the way, I always loved techno party. I don't know you, but even when I was 16 and we went to the club, there was something that I enjoyed, like techno and dance.
Sure. Yeah, me too. I also liked going out with friends, dancing. And what I wanted to say is that, of course, I mean, back then we didn't have the knowledge, but you cannot do the same drug, like especially ecstasy, which is something that is emptying basically your dopamine, serotonin, I don't know which kind of joy, reserves. Everything is like, it's like, when you flush the toilet, you cannot flush it again and again. It needs to fill up, and it takes, I think, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, eventually even a year to be completely.
Or never, I don't know.
Or maybe never, or maybe never, maybe never.
Especially with MDMA, it's. I actually heard this other guy that did more research, scientific research about it, and he said that this is a drug that if you want to enjoy it, it's better you really don't do it too much, and you create space between one use and the other, because otherwise you are kind of destroying the ability to release dopamine or serotonin or whatever it is.
That's it. Yeah. And that's actually something that maybe I can say it kind of happened in the phase after I turned 30 and I quit my real estate job because I was hating the job. And I had enough on the side, like I could, with my money and also some support from my parents, because they also, when I was 18, I got an apartment from my father that I sold, plus the good amount of money that I was doing. Basically, I bought 2 apartments with my own money, another 2 with the money with the flat that I sold from Italy. So basically, I had 4 apartments. I took a loan to make them super high end inside, with marble kitchen, super nice. I was renting them out. So I could basically retire at 30, which was my plan since I was in my 20s. I said I want to find a way to retire when I'm 30. I did manage to get to this plan, but I also found out that I really hated being a landlord. It's not me. It sucks to be, like having people paying the rent. They were working basically so that I could party. Me at 30, they were more adult than me. There were some couples, like that they were, I don't know, 40, and they were working and thank me. Oh, thank you, Sir Girardi. I was like, okay, no, this is wrong. 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 And so I started to not care anymore about holding properties, and I didn't want to end up like my colleagues in real estate that had 5 buildings, 10 buildings. It's like monopoly. Like I want to take a loan of 10 millions to buy this and this, and then I will sell it for 12, so that with the 2 millions more, I want to buy another building there. I don't know why. I saw how the dynamics is. It's also like drugs. You build a tolerance. The first time you make 20k in the account, you're like, oh my god, first time 20k. Then the first time you have 50k, oh my god, 50k on my account. Then first time 100k. I had up to over $500,000 in my account in my 20s. It gives you a kick, like a line of MDMA after you had 1 week MDMA every day. You feel nothing. Yeah. Especially if this money is coming from something that you're like, with real estate, like, like I mean, I'm not delusional. I don't consider myself delusional. So I know about gentrification. I know about the housing problem. I know about the fact that here in Berlin people are not finding apartments. I know that we were kicking out. The company I was working for. So I can say we were kicking out artists from little studios to then rent the whole office building to Mercedes, to BMW, to whoever, a bank. Like we were doing that, and we were getting paid well because we were serving the big players, people that were holding I don't know, banks. I had a client, he had a bank, he had a pharmaceutical thing. I will not say the names, but these are really heavy people that have very important Prosecco in Italy, people that are building screws and bolts. Some people came with 10 millions, but some people came with 100 millions. And like when you work with these people and they give you a percentage on their investments, if you get 5% and they invest
a lot of money,
100 millions, 5% of 100 millions is 5 millions. And if I would get, let's say, 10% of that, of 5 millions, 10% is $500,000. So it was a lot of money, and but it didn't feel right. That's why I quit. They were like, Mark, they didn't believe me. They thought I was just stressed. I had to really say a few times, guys, I will leave this office. They, do you need more money? You need a better company car? He's stressed. What's up? They were not believing me, because who is quitting at 30 a job in which I was working whenever I wanted, because I didn't have fixed hours. I was a freelancer, because the owner of the company, instead of employing me and others, he was just paying us when we were closing a transaction and the money was actually coming in the company. Then he was managing the properties, and we were getting a percentage only on the transaction. But then he had also all the asset managers that were managing the assets, and he was getting money also there. So he's really smart about money. He's a very young multi-millionaire driving my dream car. He has this GT3 RS Porsche and wants even to buy now a F40 Ferrari. I mean, but I didn't like the way he was feeling. He was very consumed. I think he's also not super sober. I think he's doing coke regularly. Long story short, I left that. I went into my into partying. You know, like I was free. I was rich. I was, I would say, pretty good looking. I had a friend of mine who was living with me that was working in Berghain. He was working in Berghain, my flatmate. So I was on the guest list of the best club in the world every weekend, and he was very very good friend with a very important drug dealer in Berlin. So we were getting the best drugs for very low prices. I could get in the best club. So I loved ketamine because coming from this stressful, I got to know ketamine and I loved ketamine because coming from this very stressful, hyper delivering work, ketamine was calming me. So it was kind of a therapy that I did after I quit the job. I was doing for, I don't know, a year, every weekend. At the beginning, a few lines, and then it was a few grams of ketamine because tolerance on ketamine also grows huge. I remember when I was doing my lines of ketamine after a while, people that never did ketamine or did it a few times, they were like, what? You're taking a line like this, so thick, so high? I mean,
Yeah. That's crazy, actually. You know, for people that haven't tried, you know, ketamine is a drug that you're kind of scared when you take it because you know that the effect changes a lot based on the quantity that you take.
yeah.
I never built that tolerance, but I've seen people doing huge line, and I was like, what is going on there? I would fucking die if I do that.
I mean, you don't die on ketamine, but you would for sure be in a KO in which you are completely out and about. You're completely okay, passed out. You're like I had K-holes. I had.
You're a vegetable.
You're a vegetable. Yes, you're connected with everything, but not your body. But the good thing about ketamine, I knew it was kind of a safe drug because if you overdo it, you basically it's kind of you fall asleep. You're dreaming. You're like maybe with the open eyes, but you're just dreaming. Your heart is working, your vitals are safe. It's quite a safe thing. So I was okay to experiment and push. I was always aware of what was the risk because I care and I used to care and I still care about my life, my health, but I also wanted to have a lot of fun. So basically, ketamine was a big chapter in my life.
I would say that that's a pretty dangerous view to have towards a drug. But I didn't know that.
I knew that. I mean, I know that, for example, there are drugs that I don't want to touch because they are highly addictive and very dangerous. For example, crack or heroin or crystal meth are stuff that I am very, 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 very aware. And so even G, this is something later on I got in touch then with more party drugs because I fell in love with a super hot party girl that had an incredible entourage of super hot queer people around. It was like, oh my god, I entered a world of I don't know, Fantasia land, like I don't know, I can't even explain, paradise. The hottest girls, guys, trans, queer, like it was the hottest people partying every weekend, 2-3 days without stop. And I was welcomed because I fell in love with her and she fell in love with me. We had this incredible relationship, super intense. It was also the first time I had a trans girlfriend. This again caused other things related with my family. She was not welcome there. This was a thing that made my relationship with my parents really take a complete different perspective, which, by the way, now it's good that I don't allow them to touch me that way, to be so how can I say, dysfunctionally harmful and hurt me. But anyway, with that time we partied a lot, and there I discovered something that I didn't know: sex enhancing drugs.
Sex enhancing drugs.
Yeah, I would.
But for me, it was cocaine. Keep it simple.
No, but wait. Let me say that cocaine, because you never did this stuff, and I recommend you to not do it. For me, being a sexual person and liking sex a lot, back then I didn't know that what the after effects would be. Will come there, but back then we were having this stuff, which was methadone, so 3-MMC or 4-MMC. Basically, 3-MMC was my one of choice. GHB or JBL, which is this super strong solvent that is used to remove graffitis or clean engine parts. But that gives you, combined with that, basically it relaxes your whole being. You are completely loose on boundaries, and combined with this methadone, who actually gives you a lot of energy and a lot of sexual and a bit of ketamine and sometimes a bit of Viagra, we could have, I don't know, benders. We call them benders, like parties. We went to the club, then another club, then after. Then we we had sex for, I don't know, 10 hours here, invited people, orgies, super kinky things. I blindfold you, and here, then we invite strangers, and you gangbangs. You know, like it was a lot. It was a lot. It was too much. It was too much. I was getting out of my center. I had one thing that I wanted to bring ongoing, which was my music. I quit real estate. I was investing so much money in music videos, in management, music studios, recording, beats, travels, concerts. I sold 1 flat, 2 flats, 3 flats because of that. 3 apartments. So much money went into that. I also bought some toys, motorcycles, race motorcycles, a nice camper van, a lot of art. So it didn't all go in that, but a fair amount of money went also into paying managers, music videos. Like I wanted to go big very fast. It didn't turn out like that. It is what it is. I had the chance to really play a lot. But what I wanted to say is that the downers were getting very hard. I was getting very hard, depressive moment after partying, because this sleep deprivation and these heavy drugs were hitting me. Also, my health was not the best, because sometimes after many hours of partying, we were not very aware of using condoms. So sometimes we were fucking with strangers, ending up with an infection, passing it to other people passing it to us. This very messy, this mess was growing, and so I had to say, okay, enough. I want to go sober. Enough. My partner didn't want to go sober. She wanted to keep on partying. That's also why we had to break up, because there was also a lot of drama coming in because of this excessive lifestyle. Even though we had very loving base, these drug-induced storms of mess were having a huge impact, and it's also why the communication was getting worse. We were not
Yeah, and I actually would like to add something to that, because
yeah.
in the experience of drug use, and this happened to most people, there is a period in which you really enjoy. You're really in the moment. You think that's happiness, and you're moving forward. You're doing drugs. Hangovers don't even feel like hangovers. You know, it just feel part of the experience. And you know, psychiatrists, I learned from this book that basically what's happening is that you are escaping your mental pain, or sometimes physical pain, with that. So the pain that you get from drugs is lighter than the pain that you're experiencing in other areas of life, and you're trying to cover. And so it's very, very difficult to get someone to change and understand that they're harming themselves, and they're not going into the right direction in life when they are in this moment of drug use. I think it's almost impossible. You either close these people inside of a room, if that's what's needed, but
Yeah.
there is these people in which you're really like not caring. You're just happy, destroying yourself with drugs.
100%, and that's what I tried. This is also why we broke up. Is I wanted to basically not close her in a room, but I reached out to her mother, and this was the line that I crossed, where she said, "Okay, you're trying to control me. I'm doing okay. I'm okay doing my G and my stuff and things." I was very worried because people were dying around us, and also some of the friends I have died either because of G, or after the super intense parties they took a sleeping pill and fell asleep in the bathtub, or died in clubs. Like, I knew that this was happening, and since I was sincerely worried and totally in love with my partner, I had my brother that at the time was struggling with heroin, and my friend Felix died at 18. I knew that this stuff was real. I reached out to her mother and said, "Hey, help me because she wants to go sober but is not doing it. What can we do?" And basically, she said, "You know what? Fuck you. You're out." And I mean, it is what it is. It was super painful. I lost then her. I lost all the friends in Tourage that for a long time completely disappeared, and they were kind of my family. We were my everything. You know, for these 1.5 years we were together all the time. So it was really, I really fell on my face hard, and yeah, this also was a very valuable lesson. These drug party people. Now I'm in contact with some of them, especially with those who are they were the most sober also back then. But the really, really party people, they are not reliable because they are partying all the time. So if they're still doing that,
Yeah.
how can they be reliable? You know, like I was also
Yeah.
probably not reliable when I was partying and hungover all the time. So it's not about them; it's about their choices. You know, like if you are
Yeah. There's a lot of dysfunctional people in this environment, and then there is people, well, I don't want to brag, but let's say people more like us, that even though we are in that environment, we are a little bit more centered. At some point we realize that it's not for us, and we want to do something that have more purpose in life, or we don't want to kill ourselves. You know, we realize that it's something that is really harmful for us. And in this moment when you realize, you also realize that this family that you have, it's almost fake. It's created by this environment that is not even real.
yeah.
And most of these people will disappear, and will not really be your friends. On the other side, I met people. My best friend, Gianluca, who lives in London, is someone that I have developed a relationship with also through drug use. And the girl I had the longest relationship with was, and I'm still connected to, is someone that I met during a after party. It was super high on MD and cocaine. Well, she didn't do cocaine at the time. She was doing speed. She likes speed the most. Should I go?
Yeah, the only thing I want to maybe add, because you said that I don't feel completely in tune. I wouldn't say that I was more centered back then. I was as lost, if not even more lost than them, because I feel that they can handle this lifestyle better than me. They can handle. I was actually not in control. Some of them are more in control during parties than I am. But I saw that it was not sustainable for me, because I could not make this become my lifestyle for a long time, because I saw that my priorities are somewhere else, and so I had this internal battle. So that I would say that I was not as relaxed in this lifestyle as others, and also not. I can say I was very excessive. You know, like if I was going, I was really going hard, sometimes even harder than anyone else, and and uh, and so I would say that it was just not for me. You know, I don't want to say that I was more centered, but I just for some people maybe.
I agree, definitely not centered if you, if
Yeah, I was
you
going
got
super
into that.
hard, and even sometimes I even did things that, looking back, you know, like I was like, what the fuck? What did I do? But you know, like after 3 days of not sleeping and doing enormous amount for my levels, but it was a lot of stuff of drugs. I mean, people didn't forget even about consent. You know, like I ended up, you know, like people pushing my boundaries. You know, like doing things that they should have not done, touching me when they should have not, and then they were lying about it. But also sometimes I was also going with this stuff, you know, and then doing also things I did, like for example, I touched a person one time in a way that I should have not. And then it was kind of okay, but it was still really not. Like I should have still asked. So things were getting in a way in which, like it was not nice, and people were going over boundaries. I was going over people were going over mine. I was going over the others. I saw that this is a dynamic that I want to completely eradicate, and to do so I didn't have to change, because I know I'm a person that wants to respect others. I always have the best intentions. I always also had it when I was high, but when I was high I was not capable of doing so. It's like saying I always want to drive the car safely. Yes, but if you drink a bottle of vodka and you go out driving, even if you want to drive safe, you will not be able. So even if your intention is I want to drive safe, but you cannot, you have to be honest and say, look, I cannot behave uh, upright if I am completely intoxicated, if I'm not sleeping. So you have to be brave enough, honest enough to say, if I want to be that person that I want to be, I have to also have habits and take choices that make this possible. That's also why I had to completely cancel and go completely sober. And now it's 1 year I didn't touch anything, and I didn't even drink. I'm also even canceling coffee anyway, and just tea, and even tea is gonna go, because I don't want to be, I want to be clean and clear. So right back at you.
Yeah, right back at me. So my drug use was mostly centered about my job as well. So I choose to be a bartender because I didn't want to feel like I was doing a normal job. I wanted to feel free. I wanted to feel like I was having, interactions with people. Also having it easier to flirt with the girls. I can remember when we did the trial in a company of what I was studying. So like mechanical operator. I remember when we did that week and hearing the machines working, the sound of the metal, and being surrounded by only men was just like something that I didn't want, and that's why I moved towards being a bartender. And when in London is so many people doing drugs, and the hospitality environment, it's a very high-paced environment. It is an environment that it really pushes your limits physically and mentally. So I did enjoy, like, being a bartender was something that I liked, but the situations when you find a job, they're usually very, very stressful, and they never give you like just 8 hours. In my experience, it's always more than 8 hours, and you're standing and you're going up and down and you're lifting things, and in London you have so many people coming, especially like in the weekend. You never stop. You're making drinks, and so it was also a matter of staying awake. Like sometimes, you close at 1 and you need to stay up until 3 a.m. So even and the other colleagues, there were also other colleagues into cocaine. So often we would just buy cocaine together. While we were working, someone would call the pusher, and we would split the order.
Yeah.
And then we were playing around, passing the cocaine with one another. And I was drinking all the time. Something that I have to say, since I started to be a bartender, like at 19 years old, like I was drinking most days. Mm-hmm. I was absolutely drinking most days. So that was the baseline drinking. I always had a very good tolerance with alcohol, and then often cocaine on top of that. And the routine that I had mostly was during the weekend. Like on Saturday, I would finish work at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then I was going to party. In London, we had Fabric, one of the most famous plays, like Joseph Capriati, Jamie Johns, and other big DJs go there. And it would close at 7. Sometimes later, like sometimes I was surprised, why is it not closed yet? Because it was some special event. I was like, so I would be there until 8 or 9 a.m. And I would do MDMA usually, or pills. I would usually find it in the club, always with cocaine as a baseline for the most part. And at 7 I would go to the after party, Corsica Studio. I love that place because it's so special. It's like I think is the type of techno that you would find in Berlin. Because it's harder, like hard techno, industrial techno. It was this very small place with a super good sound system, and it was dark, like hyper dark, not even red light. It was just black. And the dance floor was just black. In fact, and I remember, obviously you go there 9 a.m., you're already tired, super high, you already mixed a bunch of different drugs. And when the dance floor was kind of empty, you would hallucinate and see people. Like I remember I would see like fucking ghosts in the dark, and then realizing, no, there's actually no one there. And I remember, and I will never forget this moment. I was, again, it was dark, and I was high on MDMA. I was, when you're very high on MDMA, you kind of, awake, but a little bit of dreaming. There is a little bit of hallucination.
Yeah.
And so there was this black guy sitting in the dark. And I didn't understand it was a person. And I thought it was some kind of sofa or a statue, I don't know, a sculpture. So I go with my hand, also very slow, like it's weird already.
Yeah.
Like getting close to him, then I touch his hand. And the guy looked up like, what's going on? He was also very high because he was like slow in movement. I was like, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was going alone actually, most of the time to this party. Yeah, I would see the same people, and I would then stay with people. Or sometimes I was just alone. Yeah, I would go to party alone most of the time because it was my happy place. I don't know. I feel like I always had a problem as well to create deep connection with people, and I don't know. I had this very strong feeling of wanting to go party because was my happy place. I was really not happy. I realized that I was really not happy with my life. Like the job was too much. It was not paying the bills. I was not having a vision for a better future, and so for me, party was really my happy place. And in fact, I almost didn't understand how people would tell me no to me when I said let's go party. Like, what are you doing in life if you don't party? How can you be happy? 100%. And also I was, and of course I'm not proud of it, but I was stealing money. I did not have money saved like you, and cocaine, it's expensive. Yeah. I was never like overdoing cocaine. Usually it was maybe one. I would buy a bag or two.
But that's already quite a bit of money. I mean.
Yeah, especially in London, cocaine it's very expensive as well.
How much is a bag? 60.
1 gram?
80
pounds. No, 1 gram is always around 100 usually.
Pounds?
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah, very deep. You could. Once I found a very good dealer that had 1 gram for 70 pounds and it was super good, but I think he got arrested because he never answered back. So, yeah, it was expensive, and so I was stealing money from the places I was working, like
from the cashier, no?
Not really. The money wouldn't even get to the.
Okay.
People
say thank you very much.
Yes, this is the money going directly to my pocket, and that's it. And and that was the routine really. This is what I was doing. I did it all around the place. Like when I was in London, then I went to Barcelona. That even though I was partying in Barcelona, I started to enjoy life more because London weather is shit. So the culture is going to a pub to another. But in Barcelona, the weather was good. There was the sea. People were more social. Overall, I think the environment was healthier, and I felt like I calmed down a little bit when I was in Barcelona and realized that the rhythm that I was taking in London was not very good.
Yeah.
And the moment, well, something I want to say as well, that just like you, like when I was using drug, I didn't really realize I was harming myself, I must say. And the kind of the proof of this is the story when I went out from Corsica Studio, this after party. I took a pill like 2 p.m. Just 1 hour before coming out, and as I go out, the ecstasy hit me, and I passed out. I passed out on the street, and I wake up. I don't know how long ever I was sleeping there, but I woke up. The police was in front of me, and the first thing they said, "You see, this is what happens when you take drugs." And then he asked me, "Do you have more drugs on you?" And I said, "No, I don't have any drugs on me, but I did have more. I did have more pills. I don't know. I don't remember if I still had cocaine too. But yeah, they called the ambulance as well. The ambulance came. They made me some tests, and I was okay. They just said that, you probably were already tired, and when the effect hit you, like blood pressure went up, and that's why you have this down and you passed out."
Yeah.
And I was tired, but I had my leaving party in the evening. I don't know what a normal person would do. Like you tell me, maybe you would have told your friend that you were too tired and you wouldn't go to the party. But
I would have maybe taken a cold shower, but for sure I would have maybe stopped taking drugs. Say, guys, you can have fun, but I already collapsed. Maybe I don't know, because I'm not in that situation. But maybe take a cold shower. Say, guys, let's have a simple brunch, and then if you want to go party. And knowing you did not do that.
No, because at that time I think I don't know. I felt the need to use drug to enjoy my time. I think at that time it was really like that. Yes. So yeah, for me it was a no-brainer that I would have continued taking drugs. And so I had my leaving party, and I don't remember if I didn't have the money for the Uber. Probably my battery was down, and that's why I couldn't take a Uber. So I went for the tube to get there, and I was tired. So it took me, instead of, I don't know, maybe half an hour to get to the place, it took me 2 hours and a half or something, because I fell asleep and I went to the one end of the tube, then go back, fall asleep again, the other end of the tube, and then there was this moment in which I was close to the right stop.
It by a little bit. You were getting it first, and then at the beginning.
It was like a video game.
Yeah.
And I finally get to the place, and of course I slept on the street. So I had an orange jacket that had black stain because I slept on the street, and my jeans as well. They were very dirty, and I stink at that time. I was stinking. I was feeling it myself that my odor was not nice. So I said, okay, I cannot present myself like that. And so I go to like a souvenir shop. I buy this England, T-shirt like a tourist.
Wow.
And I had a half shower in the bathroom of the place. And people came to see me to say goodbye because it was my leaving party going to Barcelona. And I wasn't there, like some people came just to say hi, and then they went away. And there was the others, like maybe 20 20 people waiting for me for the party, and I wasn't there, and that's it. And then we went out party, and I kept taking ecstasy, and
Wow.
like there is this self-harming behavior that is part of me, is still, I think, is still part of me, that I don't necessarily give that much value to the negative health outcomes from drug use. Like, I think,
But do you believe it's more like still an escaping mechanism or self-harm? Because knowing you, you are a person that trains, you think about longevity, you think about your body. So it sounds
do you think about longevity? I think about, and I think more about being healthy, so I'm enjoying life.
yeah.
Longevity, no, sure, to a certain degree,
Okay.
but that's not necessarily my priority to live long. I want to live good until I die.
But here you
That's
go, like you want to live good, and to live good, you really put a lot of effort, work, and time in
yeah.
in building a structure that is your body that allows you to be strong. And you did this also through all these periods of time, and I did as well. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but I always kept training enough as a priority. I didn't want to let my body decompose and break under the
Yeah.
drugs. And when it was happening, that I was getting too skinny, for example, because I was not eating for many days and just partying, and then I ended up eating junk food after, and my body was, of course, if you party, don't eat, then you eat shit. Of course, you're not building the
No, but yeah, you see, like, I have kind of natural dark eyes
yeah
since I have a kid. Like, people sometimes don't believe it, but Marco saw
yeah
a
it's true.
picture of me when I was 6 years old, maybe, and he saw it and said, "Ah, so it's true.
It's
This is
genetic. You have this
this is
dark. Because
genetic."
I thought also, like before seeing the pictures of you as a kid, that maybe you're tired, you're not sleeping enough, or you are not in your best health, because dark eyes is a clear indicator that someone is tired. When you're tired, you have
But partly it is for because of that. In fact, when I was a kid, they were usually darker, but that's because I'm asthmatic. My baseline genetic when it comes to health, it's not the best. I was a kid that I would get sick often, mainly because of my allergy and because of my asthma.
wow. Okay.
So my immune system was never like the best. And by the way, since I am vegan, uh, from getting sick once or multiple times per year, I don't get sick anymore.
Here we go.
And
And you're built like a tank. I mean, like for me, imagining you that you're like your health is not the best, and like we went running and you outrun. I mean, me and average person is running. You're really good at that. Strength wise, I mean, not even worth to mention. You have the strength of like it's really in the. There are few people that are as strong. Like you can do muscle ups, you can do so much intensity. So even though you're asthmatic, you were not blessed with the strongest immune system. You built up this. That's also why when you say you have this way of harming yourself, I say yes, but from how I know you, it looks to me like it's more like escaping rather than really harming yourself, because I don't know if you are really want to harm yourself deeply, because otherwise it's in contrast with this other side of you, which made
so
you
let's put it. It is, of course, it is a way of escaping reality. Yes, but it's still self-harm.
it is
And
yeah.
and I really realized it in, especially when I started to be sober, because when you started to change, like you, Marco, already shared, when things clicked for you, and you wanted to get sober, is because you saw people around you dying, and you saw the danger, and also you didn't you realized that it did not reflect the person that you wanted to be. Like, you wanted to achieve more in life, but you know, partying and hangovers did not allow you to be productive.
Yeah,
Correct?
and I will also add that I didn't want to be in this mess, like of this, because drugs were very often linked with sex things, and the sex boundaries things were getting very blurred. People were then, like afterwards accusing each other. I was also getting sometimes accused, you didn't ask for consent, while actually I did. But, like when both were so high and tired, and both, I mean, I am sure I remember correct, but the other person as well. So who is right? Like maybe I remember I did, but maybe I'm sure I did, but maybe I didn't. Who knows? I have to give the benefit of the doubt that I didn't ask. I remember I asked clearly, "Can I do this?" And the person said yes, and I did. And after, but you didn't ask for consent. I said, "Yes, I did." "No, you didn't." And so I said, "You know what? To remove this mess, I said, you said, you did, I did, my fault, your fault." Like, I said, you know what? I will be crystal clear and have people around me that are clear as well. Because if I am with messy people that are completely high, they are not sleeping, this mess will always happen. There will always be misunderstandings, because how can you understand each other if you are not sleeping,
With
taking drugs, tired, not eating? People are like zombies. How can zombies interact and even have sex in a consensual
Sorry, I have
good
a
way? So that was
battery
something
problem.
that I,
I'm
I, I
back.
was I was done with that. I was done with that. I was done with that, and I didn't want to have this energy around. I didn't want to be that person anymore. So yes, I didn't want the hangovers. I had to work on my future, because the money was also finishing. Like I have one apartment left, and it's not a big one, it's a small one. Like this is my last thing that I'm keeping as a safety net. And so I had to start working. I started working for Greenpeace, and I became a coach for the team of fundraising. So I had to stop doing bullshit. And then after my brother passed away 1.5 years ago, I decided to start working out. I got in touch with you. I got stronger physically. And then I decided I want to build my business with it, what we are doing now. And we are putting effort, time, energies, connections. Like we are trying strategies. We are not just hoping. We are doing. And this cannot go hand in hand. If I
Yeah.
would have been partying yesterday and sleeping all day, this podcast that I hope is going to go super viral, help us.
It
Um,
will. I think it's fantastic. But to go super viral, we need to have the right lighting. So keep talking. I will adjust the
Yes,
lights.
and I'm lucky because today in Berlin the sun is shining. Should I show you? We have this beautiful sky. I don't know if you can see. I guess you can. Ta-da! That's why I'm blessed with this very natural light coming in my pretty face. I know I'm pretty. I know I'm pretty. So now I dropped the charger of the phone of the computer. Well, anyway, from my side, I would say I had great experiences with drugs. I could even sometimes really self-medicate myself with
We're
ketamine. It
back.
did help me. With other psychedelics, I did have very great experiences. Even some therapy sessions I had with mushrooms and some healers that I really thank from the heart for helping me to understand things and patterns. So I did have a great acknowledges and I did have enriched my way of feeling. I could get into perspectives I didn't know they were possible. I unlocked some different aspects of my perspective, character, and persona. So overall, I am grateful I did the choices I did, but I'm also grateful about the choices I did to stop choosing that, because I did experiences, I tried what I wanted. I don't have things that I'm really curious about. Maybe when I'm 80, 90, I will try heroin, because like at that, I don't know, but maybe also
I will
not.
never.
I don't
I will
know.
never.
I don't know. Maybe at 90, They say it's great. Anyway,
It
let's
really
decide
does
this when I
not
will be
attract
90.
me.
For now, I'm now 38 almost. I know I look like 18, but this is also because I'm sober, I'm doing sports, I'm being healthy. Of course, I'm vegan, so my diet is plant-based. And if you want to know more about things like that, if you want to maybe go sober and you want to go vegan, you want to be a better example, you want to be a better person, write us. We are coaching this. We are making not only a living out of that because we want to have a job, but we also help people to get better, and it's working. We have 30 people now in our program, and the enthusiasm and the energy is growing. We're also planning to have now retreats to meet all together. If what you're seeing is inspiring, take an action, reach out and say, guys, I want to do it as well. And we do it together. Like, it's possible. It's not like, yeah, they did it because of this and that. You can too. So, if you want to get in a more sober, more energetic, ethically more aligned with your actions, less hypocritical, less delusional, cleaner, stronger, more successful energy and persona, you have to take actions. We can help, but we can't wait to hear of you and walk this journey together. We have a program, it works. Maybe Stefano wants to add some words to that as well. And the arms are open. The universe is bringing you this podcast as a message. If you arrived until here, maybe this is what you need to hear. Take your phone, take your computer, write us and say, hey, I'm in. I want to do it. How is it looking? How's the program looking? Why is it so effective? What are you doing? Reach out.
Yeah, I mean that's that's a good point, because anyway, for me, and that was the thing that woke me up. The first light bulb in my head that told me you're going into the wrong direction, because after 1 year and a half, I would say, of partying, I was getting into a period in which I was doing cocaine multiple times per week. And I was staying awake until the morning, and so I realized that I was skipping workouts. Again, I did not like the feeling of decomposing in this moment in which I was partying hard, hangovers, but I was very attached to my confidence and feeling strong and looking good. And I was also enjoying the parties because I would take my shirt off, and I had my t-shirt, a tight t-shirt, so that was part of me having fun. And so that was coming from training. So when I got to the point where, I was skipping training, because when you do cocaine and you stay awake until 10 a.m. and you lost a day, and you cannot work out. And that pushed me to do my first dry months. I called it a dry month, but it was just no drugs. I was still drinking. And during that period, I really realized that, wow, okay, I am really covering some feelings with drugs. Because as soon as I stopped using drug for, let's say, 1 week, I was feeling anxious. And I wanted to escape that anxiety. And I realized that the way I was doing it before was through drugs. I was also like canalizing that anxiety towards the people I was working with, because at the time I was a supervisor, so I was being more arrogant and kind of annoying to the bartenders, when they were not doing things as I was expecting them to do. But since then I started to, over time, it just became more and more awareness and desire of being kind of sober. In fact, talking about my kind of dark eyes, I remember like when I was partying very, very hard, they would go darker, and after like 2 weeks or 3 weeks of not partying, not drinking, because then I would have proper dry months in which I wasn't even drinking, they would light up again, and I would look healthier. And people noticed as well when I was like going down and up. Everyone would actually notice, because people knew I was the party guy of the situation. They would say the addict, because even though people know me and we would spend time together, most of the time I was the one that would dissociate to go party and do drugs by himself. And coming back to the self-harm thing, in this journey of becoming more and more sober, I realized that often my desire of escaping reality, desire of extreme experiences, just went into from drugs to a habit. Like, for example, running. I realized that when the reason why I was doing long runs, 20K runs, because after the 20K run, there was a feeling of, wow, like I pushed my body to a very, very hard limit, and I enjoy that. I feel happy when my body feels destroyed. I realize that that pain, that struggle, it's also a way to take away the anxiety. Yeah. Because you cannot feel anxious. You're just thinking about kind of surviving that moment. Same thing with kickboxing. That feeling of danger, that you're going to get hit and you're going to get harmed, allows me to dissociate from my worries, my anxiety, and as you mentioned as well, the reason why so sports is definitely one thing. Training needs to be present in your life because it helps you go into the right direction. Taking care of your health, it helps you go into the right direction, because everyone wants to feel healthy, because that's a good feeling to be healthy. It's a good feeling. So if you commit to some kind of fitness routine, it will naturally move you away from the bad habits, because these two things kind of cannot exist together. Yeah. Even though party for 2 hours, for 2 days straight, is basically like doing an ultra marathon, because I personally really enjoyed dancing. And if I think about it, I was like, that was a fucking hard workout to dance for 20 hours straight. It's crazy. And that's why for me it was so easy also to stay lean, even though I was drinking and eating, because I don't know how many calories you would burn. You probably burn 3,000, 4,000 calories out of that only. Yeah. And then the other thing that later on pushed me even farther from drugs and party was purpose. So animal rights activism, and also realizing, going from a job that was about getting people drunk, so there was no purpose. It was just selfish, and it was not even creating a good life for myself, to opening up my eyes to a better life, being a personal trainer and actually helping people get healthier instead of getting drunk. That was something that gave me a feeling of purpose, and I was just happier about the direction I was going to, and it pushed me away from self-harming and just using drugs. And then when it comes to doing animal rights activism, this was really something, because you do animal rights in the weekend, and the weekend for me was party time. Yeah. And I was still on the fence in the beginning, and I actually happened that I went to an event, and our animal rights event is you having to talk to people and make them understand that it's wrong to exploit vulnerable animals, and that's a very important job, and it requires clarity. Clarity of mind, and requires to be present. But I said yes to cocaine the day before, and I also had this thing where I would commit to what I have to do, even though I fucked up the day before. This is also another approach and mindset that helped me over time move away from drugs. And so, I was high, I was tired, but I said, this is important, I have to go and speak up for animals. And yes, I did it, but it did not feel right. I was like, what's going on here? Like these two things just don't match. I have to be sober. I have to be clear while I do this, and it also that really helped me move away from party more and prioritize being sober during the weekend. I think I'm done. I said everything I wanted to say. The one thing I wanted to say, this is for the people that kind of saying what is addiction for me. For me, addiction is having that desire of wanting to use daily. I would say when it comes to me, and because I realized now in adulthood, but something that my mom would say, like, why do you have to smoke? Why do you have to get drunk? This kind of question, or people that don't use drugs, for example, why you have to do it? That's the question. When you are an addict and you have that desire of using drugs, you have that desire of using drugs. And I have that desire. So addiction for me is fighting that desire of using drugs constantly. Mm-hmm. And the way you find balance in life is creating a life that you're happy with. So you do not want to escape it. It's difficult, it's hard, but you can do it over time.
That's very interesting. I will close with my definition. I feel that for me, being an addict is a bit different, because for me, being an addict is when you cannot say no to the voice that is coming to you. Because maybe I have this voice as well, and I do have this voice as well, but I don't consider myself an addict because I'm saying no. So as long as I'm saying no, like what defines me are my actions, not my thoughts. So even let's say I think of drinking every morning and every afternoon and every evening. I think of drinking, but I'm not drinking. Am I an alcoholic? No. Do I think about alcohol? Yes. But I'm less an alcoholic of someone that drinks every second day. Yeah, even if I think about it every day. So for me, I what defines me are my actions and not my thoughts. And so I don't consider myself an addict, even if I have addictive thoughts. I have addictive. A part of me wants that, but as long as I prioritize what I will do, and I will do that, and it's not using drugs, I see myself as a sober, healthy person, because this is who I am, not what I think, and so this helps me to see, okay, Marco, yeah, you have this voice, but in the end you're doing well. You can be proud of yourself. So it gives me the confidence to say no over and over. I was in Berghain last weekend and I was tempted. I ended up smoking 3 cigarettes, which is something, but that's it. And I enjoyed it. It was good. After a few hours I was there. I was also tired. I went home. I was very tempted to do something. I didn't do it. So even in the environments when people invite me, ask me, I was in the bathroom, I was saying, you wanna have? I said no. So I cannot see myself as addicted, because if I would be addicted in my definition, my perspective, I could not say no. So if I can say no, it means that I am not addicted anymore. I was addicted when I could not say no, even though I knew it was not good for me. I was, for a time, I was an addict, because there were some years in which I wanted to stop. After I broke up with my super hot trans girlfriend, I had another partner with which we did party, and I wanted to stop, but I was also not completely managing. I think there I was addicted to still doing that. And then after, when I said no and I kept that, this is where my addiction ended. So I feel free. Even if my thoughts sometimes I like that. I don't consider myself a violent person. I have violent thoughts very often. Where it's coming from? Collective rage, intergenerational trauma, my parents, I'm hungry. Sometimes I think of, I don't know, something super violent. But am I a violent person? Absolutely not, because these are just my thoughts. So this is how I see it. Let us know how you think about it. I'm very curious. This is a very personal thing. And the comments, please let them explode. I hope this was not too long. We almost did 2 hours. But I think it was a very good episode. Better than the 2 ones that we didn't release. How do you feel about that, Stefano?
Yeah, it was good. We said so many things. I mean, this is an argument that feels like never really ends. There's so many other stories to tell.
Yeah.
Other feelings, even about this, like you don't feel like an addict, but that's the definition of addiction. Like, sounds good.
So
I'll read your book about addiction.
my book, yeah, I don't even need to write a book because it's not such an important thing in my life. Like it's not as relevant. It's just a part of me. Like it's a part like many others. So I don't even feel like writing a book. The person that had to write a book, maybe he has some issues, but not me. I'm good. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I have my issues, but I want to also be a bit lighter and not finding myself too much into definitions because in the end they didn't serve me well. Like I was straight, then I was bisexual, then I was pansexual, now I'm queer. You know who I am? I am the way I am. I'm fluid. One day I am one way I'm another. So I learned that addicted, not addicted, ex addicted, healthy, non-healthy, balanced, unbalanced. How can I say? Regulated, not regulated, good, bad, all this stuff. I am a bit of everything. I'm a bit unregulated. I'm a bit good. I'm a bit bad. I'm a bit lazy. I'm a bit tough. I'm a bit hard. I'm a bit soft. I'm a bit whatever. Addicted, not addicted. I'm a bit of everything. So for me, I don't define myself that much anymore because I'm changing all the time. So the definition should also change all the time. But the definition is written in one way. So how can I identify with something which is in one way, and I'm changing all the time? So for me, it cannot work. I'm aware of that.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. If it works for you,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
works.
I saw
I
what,
just,
did,
I
what
just,
didn't
it
work.
just,
I saw what didn't work, so this works better, way better. So yes, 100%.
That's good. All right, let's close it. Guys, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe. You have questions that we did not, about things that we did not cover in today's episode and you would like us to expand on. I will now go for a walk with Nina. Poor her, she's been waiting very long this morning to go out. And that's it.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Bye. We love
The
you.
triple M movement.
Hey, hey, tra. Boom, boom. Tschüss.